Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Eden, and in this video we're going to be having a little bit more of a serious conversation. I wanted to talk about something that weighs really heavy on my heart, and I hope you guys stay for the journey and stay to the end of this video and just kind of listen to my story on it. A year ago today, the Tubbs wildfire struck my hometown, Santa Rosa, and so many surrounding areas here in California. And unfortunately, my house was one of the first to go on night one, which was October 9th, 2017. It has been such a transformative year for me, and so much has happened since that point. And I really just wanted to do a 1 year update and let you guys know what has changed for me, what has gotten better, maybe even what has gotten worse. And you know, my hopes with this video is to potentially inspire somebody who might be going through an incredibly hard time or might feel like there's no hope, and just to keep looking for the brighter side and what might be on the other side. Because if you're persistent and you surround yourself by good positive energy, then things do get better. So I'm just going to get into it. I have a couple notes here to refer to so I can cover some of the main points. I'm not going to get into all the details about the hardships that followed directly after the fire. That can be saved for another video, but I did want to talk about how it's changed me. So the night of the fire, my mom woke up me and my roommate around 1 a.m. And we had about a half hour to evacuate because we already had some of our neighbors, our next door neighbors' houses on fire. We had fire in our backyard on and off. I remember my mom had to keep running into the backyard in her robe and spraying down the fire so it didn't spread. For a while, we had to keep going in and out of the front door and spraying down the house to keep it moist, so we could potentially save what there was probably no hope to save anyways. We evacuated around 1:40 a.m., spent about 7 hours in a gas station parking lot as the sky was just glowing red. The whole horizon, you could just tell that everything was on fire. You could hear the explosions from all the other gas stations, not the one we were at, blowing up and going into flames. And you know, it's crazy because even though you could see the entire sky brightening up as a red color at like 3-4 a.m., you still don't want to believe that your house could be affected. I remember the morning of the fire, I spent more time thinking about what I should grab instead of just throwing shit into a bag. I think people hypothetically think to themselves what they would do or what they would pack if a natural disaster happened, but the truth is, the moment of I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I could hardly breathe. The smoke was so bad. The wind was blowing at 40 miles an hour. It was insane. But I've learned a lot since that point, and I have a new appreciation for life since that point. And I just want to give you guys a little bit of insight. So the first thing that happened after the fire and after I went through a little bit of a rough patch while I was out of school is I made the decision that I didn't want to go to school anymore. And it wasn't because of the fire, but I kind of went through a little, I can't call it a midlife crisis because I'm only 20, but a beginning life crisis. And I decided that I didn't want to proceed in going to Davis. However, I was going to continue my move to Sacramento, where my boyfriend lives now, and now where I live as well. So I decided I wasn't going to go to school anymore and move to Sacramento and kind of figure it out from there. However, before I left, that's about the time in my life where I started getting really into health and wellness and holistic medicine and spirituality, and the opportunity of enrolling at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition kind of got put on my radar, and it was almost like the synchronicity was there, and it was just meant to be in that moment. So I enrolled and I'm in school there now, and I'm so much more passionate about the information than anything I would have learned in college. So that's one thing that's really good. So I enrolled in IIN and I moved to Sacramento. Another thing that's happened since the fire is I have fully, well, I don't even want to say fully recovered, because I told myself that never would I tell myself that the process of having the best relationship with myself and with food that I can is over. So I never want to say it's fully over, because health is a journey, not a destination. It's a lifelong battle. But no longer do I act with, I am no longer binging beyond my belief and purging. I no longer do act in a way of bulimia. Oh, this is so awkward. I'm already feeling kind of uncomfortable recording this. Around February, I didn't plan to make the decision to stop treating myself in such a horrible way, but I kind of decided in the moment that that was what I was going to do. And it was incredibly hard and challenging, but I recovered from doing that detrimental thing to my body. I really don't know how to say this. I don't know how to get my point across, but I think you know what I mean. Although I'm still working on having the best relationship with food that I can, and sometimes I still get in these mindsets where I mentally feel like I'm out of control, I've gone incredibly, like, beyond belief better at the way I look at the situation and the way I treat food and the way I treat health since that point, and I can't be more thankful. The turning point for me was actually after my best friend's 21st birthday party. Okay, let me back up for a second. I'm sorry this is all over the place, but I'm trying to just speak a little bit more from my heart instead of just referring to everything the paper says word for word. I recovered from bulimia, I want to say around February. At that point, I still had a very detrimental mindset, I would say, and I was constantly self-sabotaging, and I would say that the turning point for me was actually after my best friend's 21st birthday party back in April. And that night was a very long night of getting too drunk and not having any sleep and totally binging out and eating everything in sight, even though I knew I didn't want to, and I just felt like I was at another level of low. I felt like I was trying to do better things for my body and my health, but I was at a whole new low and I didn't know what to do. So the day after, I went on an emergency smoothie cleanse, and for about 2 days, all I had were smoothies to drink, and I ate a salad. And this was not planned at all, but it was at that very point where I started getting extremely, incredibly into health, and I really wanted to know how food affected the body and how your food affects your mood and how all of those things were intertwined, so I could get healthy for real or start the journey to become healthy. I still, once again, wasn't doing the best things for my body. I was actually under eating to a pretty extreme level at that point. And I was starting to see results. I was going to the gym and I was extremely happy. I was intermittent fasting and I was so ready to go to this music festival at the end of May with my friends because I was just looking good, feeling good. Keep in mind, I had no muscle definition, but I didn't really care at that time. I went to the gym and I was like, I'm gonna have a hot body and I'm gonna get so toned. But in reality, since I was underfeeding myself, all I really did was lose a lot of muscle and lose a lot of tone to my body. So we're gonna fast forward a little bit. So throughout that whole time, I was constantly like hitting the books and reading and learning everything that I could about health. Even if I wasn't necessarily doing the best thing for my body, I was still learning and soaking up as much information as I possibly could. So I retained a lot of that information as well. School at IIN hadn't started at that point, but that was when the opportunity arose, and I did enroll, and I was just waiting for July to come around so I could start it. So fast forward to when I went to that music festival with my friends in May. I kind of gave myself full permission to just splurge and eat whatever I wanted. So I did just that and felt a little bit out of control with that as well. But I figured after the week I would just get right back on track and everything would be fine. Even though there was really no solid track to be on, I thought I was just going to whip right back into what I was doing before. I feel like I wasted a lot of my time of that trip worried about body image and body confidence, which is another story in itself. But fast forward to after the trip, I found it very hard to get back onto the path that I was on. I didn't want to eat such a small amount. I wanted to eat more. And so naturally I put on a little bit of weight because I went from under eating to eating all the bad stuff and a large quantity of it. At this point, I was still learning as much as I possibly could, and shortly after IIN started, and I thought, you know what, if I'm not going to school, I'm going to fully indulge in this program. I'm going to take the notes, I'm going to write in my journal, I'm going to really start making sustainable habits that are going to last and that are going to change me as a person. And sure enough, piece by piece, lecture by lecture, that's exactly what happened. And that's when my life, I would say, really began to change the utmost for the better. So I had a lot of changing points where I came to different realizations, but when my health really started to take off was after I went through that roller coaster of being really depressed after the fire, not knowing where my life was going to go, picking myself back up because I had no other choice, and kind of trying to figure out my life, deciding that after the semester ended I was going to move to Sacramento, and being really excited, and at that point trying to get in really good shape. So I was under eating, which doesn't really make sense at all. So we're back up here thinking we're up here, even though we were probably down here. Things going downhill after the music festival. And when I came back, I was like, I know I'm unhealthy right now. I'm putting on weight. And then when school started and I really started to crack down on my learning and my goals in life, then things started changing a lot. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of insight onto where I am today versus a year ago. And once again, I'm sorry that this is all over the place, but I am just trying to speak in the best way that I know how about something that's so personal about my life. A year ago, I suffered very heavily of bulimia and did for a while. A year ago, I had the worst self-confidence issues, the worst body confidence issues. I had quite a few friends, but all of us were quite frankly partiers and spent a lot of our time drinking, which means we were eating constantly too. I went through the first breakup that I had ever gone through a year ago. I mean, thankfully there hasn't been one before that, but I remember I used to think to myself, I don't understand why girls in movies get crazy after their man like breaks up with them. But then after I went through the first breakup of my life with somebody that I was so head over heels for, I kind of understood, because even though I didn't act out in a crazy way, I completely shut down and I kind of felt like I was going a little bit crazy. So that was me a year ago, just hating life, hating myself. And one thing I do want to point out in terms of the fire, even though it did that and the emotional trauma of heartbreak, those two things actually happened like a week from each other. After coming to some realizations and trying to figure out why are these things happening to me. You know, we all have those moments where we're like, I don't understand why this is happening to me. It's like shitty thing after shitty thing after shitty thing. But this is basically what I came up with. It was life's way of testing me. It really wanted to see if I can come out stronger. Never have I experienced heartbreak before, but you know, life wanted me to be able to empathize with those who have and be able to take care of them better when they need it. So it made sense. I needed to experience what it was like. So one of the things that kept me motivated and helped me in the process of wanting to learn literally as much as I could about true health and how to really nourish my body was through YouTube videos and watching and learning from some people who are actually very inspiring to me today. So I'll give you a couple names of some of my favorite YouTubers. Dr. Josh Ash, Holistic Medicine, love it. Clean and Delicious, love her page. Holistic Habits, Natasha Ocean, Boho Beautiful, Pickup Limes, High Carb Hannah, and The Fairly Local Vegan. So those are some of my biggest inspirations when I was at a point in my life where I was just trying to gain all this knowledge and I was trying to get from the low point of the roller coaster back up to the top. So after I started having this newly found motivation and love for learning about health, I started to get a lot of mental clarity about what it was that I needed to nourish myself and my body. And don't get me wrong, I was still battling with a lot of things mentally and figuring out what it really was that I wanted to do with my future. But one of the biggest realizations that I had, and that I still have to this day, is that nothing happened for me until I let go of all expectations. We're so used to wanting to control everything on the outside when we really just need to learn to intuitively let things happen as they should. So it wasn't until I let go of all expectations that things started to look up for me. Let me just give you an example. When I let go of the expectation of wondering, when is it that I'm going to reach a new level of enlightenment? When am I going to learn this and this and this? When am I going to know it all? None of that happened for me. I had to just kind of accept the flow and the process. And when I let go of the need to have to know the outcome of a situation, that's when things started to uncover themselves. And that's probably the biggest tip that I can give people, because even to this day, I try and figure out what's going to happen next, what's going to happen in a month from now, what the outcome of this situation is going to be. And to my surprise, that almost never happens. But all I can do is go into a situation with an open mind and be optimistic. And when I don't hold standards to such a high level, then amazing things start to happen. So I want to recap the last few months for me. The last 2 or 3 months have been the utmost amazing months that I've experienced in a very long time. In fact, I would probably say my whole life. As far as the eating goes, even after the bulimia stopped, I was still having very detrimental thoughts. And every now and then I do self-sabotage still, as we all do. But one thing that I would recommend anybody do if they're having some mental battles and they're still stuck in a diet mentality is to read the Intuitive Eating book. I'm in the process of reading it right now, and everything just makes so much sense, and it really helps you get to the reason or understand the reason why you feel the way you do, what can you do about it, what are physical action steps you can take to start changing your relationship with food. So that has just changed my life all in itself. Another thing that the last 2 or 3 months has taught me since starting IIN is I got inspired to start budgeting. I started low-key journaling, not too much, but it's just something that I gradually fell in the habit of. And I started doing that in July. In August, I started getting really clear on what my future goals were. And again, I didn't plan to get clear on these goals by August. I didn't plan to start journaling. It's just something that I naturally became inspired to do as I was learning. I started setting goals such as taking 10,000 steps a day. I started drinking celery juice and incorporating supplements into my diet. And I want to read you this little excerpt that I wrote. It says, "There is no major aha moment. In fact, I have had and still do many breakthrough moments that sporadically begin to happen as I continue learning and feeling inspired to know more. None of this was planned. Every time I had high expectations, not shit happened for me. The universe works in funny ways. Follow your gut intuition and make little changes and small steps forward." I feel like when we see some of our favorite vloggers and YouTubers and blogs or whatever, these people are doing so many great things for their health, and so we almost feel pressure to change everything all overnight. But in reality, I didn't get to the point that I was today. It's taken over a year, and to be quite honest, it's taken a lifetime. I probably wouldn't have had that breakthrough had I not gone through the struggles that I've gone through. The most successful people in the universe wouldn't be where they are today had they not gone through the extreme struggles that they went through. So just know that if you are battling or struggling with something, it's because life is testing you and there's something to look forward to on the other side. You just have to be persistent, be stubborn, and willing to work with the situation that you're in the moment, and you'll get through it. You'll come to certain realizations, and it will happen over time. Even to this day, sometimes I think to myself, why wasn't I doing so-and-so habit or so-and-so thing every day like 3 months ago when I started school? Well, it's because it wasn't time for me. I've had times where I tried to force myself to do something and it just didn't happen. And that's okay. We don't have to be all perfect. I'm sure as hell not perfect. I still have my own struggles, but had I not gone through everything I did, I wouldn't be where I am today. The fire has changed me so much, and I can do another video on the details, the little nitty-gritty details of the fire, but what I want everybody to get out of this is not only to understand my story a little bit more and what was kind of the turning point as far as my health goes, but that there will be a turning point, and it's the people who can push past the hard times in their life that are going to see the light at the other side. And do I have anything else to say? Wow. Yeah, I do. I think I'm going to save it for another video. So I hope I didn't just... Wow, I just got really comfy. I hope I didn't just ramble on this entire time. I hope that you can take a couple things from this video. And other than that, thank you guys so much for staying tuned this whole time. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.